Welcome to RAD, Real Adventure Discovery. This is adventure. Here's the other part of Muddy Forks. I'll have to cross the water here, and then I'll work my way back up that ridge, back towards Top Spur Trailhead. There's another episode here from this viewpoint from Muddy Forks on RAD Discovery. If you want to check that out, you can see the flowing water with Mount Hood in the background. You can still see some snow as we're coming around. We're not quite on the north side, maybe northwest, but you can still see there's snow up there. As you make your way up the ridge after Muddy Forks, heading back to Top Spur Trailhead, kind of make your way up a little bit of a steep ridge, and it's pretty well shaded along the south side of Bald Mountain Ridge. You can see the sunlight ahead. So I'm about 2 or 2.5 miles from Top Spur Trailhead, and I'll be coming back out into the daylight before too long, which is good and bad because it actually is nice to get some sunlight, but it is a bit warmer when you're hiking through it. So I'm coming up to a cutoff trail which goes up this ridge, and it heads over to continue on the Timberline Trail. Locals call it the Lollipop Loop. If you park at Top Spur Trailhead area, it's 1 mile up to the trailhead, and then you would come in from my left over here, and then you would take the cutoff trail and loop back around to the trailhead, and they call that the Lollipop Loop. But, it is maybe a little bit shorter for the route that I'm taking on the Timberline Trail, but I'm gonna get to the trailhead because it's a nice rest spot, and it's a good place to get a cell phone signal. Finally got to see the sunshine here. The view of Mount Hood in the background. It's good to see the sunshine come up. Nice view of Mount Hood in the background. So to my right, this is where the cutoff trail I mentioned earlier comes over in to the Timberline Trail. Behind me is the Top Spur Trailhead, and so there's a really nice view if you stay on the trail up around that ridge. Then it winds its way down to the trailhead, and you come back up this way. But after that, it's on towards McNeil Point turnoff and Elk Cove. From Top Spur Trailhead, the trail winds its way up. It's a bit of a climb along the ridge of Bald Mountain, and you work your way up. I'm heading towards a turnoff at McNeil Point, but up near along the way you'll see a little clearing with some big stone boulders and a little open area with a nice view. So this is a good place to take a break, relax a bit, and enjoy the view. Just past the turnoff to McNeil Point. Now we're almost into the area of Karen Basin. So see the waterfalls, plenty of places to get water. Really nice view here. The water heading down the mountain. Not sure if you can see it really well. A really nice view. Almost around to the north side of the mountain and heading through Karen Basin. It might be a little more of a climb before dropping into Elk Cove. With a few viewpoints like this along the way. You see a lot of rock tumbling down off the side of that mountain. The trail continues through some meadows here. Well, here's the basin in Karen Basin, but it's C-A-R-I-N, Karen Basin. And you can see there's hikers along the path. We've already passed the point where McNeil Point turnoff is, so a lot of the day hikers come from Top Spur Trailhead. They go up to McNeil Point and then go back down to the parking. So beyond that point, you start to see more of the hikers that are doing the Timberline or the multi-day hikes. Coming around this north side through Karen Basin, this is the second or end loop point to McNeil Point. So if you start at Top Spur Trailhead, you can come up all the way to here, or you can make the first turn off to McNeil Point. But either way, there's a loop. If you come up, do the loop, and then go back to Top Spur Trailhead, it's about 9.3 miles. So that's a really good day hike. You just have to drive up and park at the Top Spur Trailhead, which it's a little bumpy road, better if you have a pickup, but you can make it in a passenger car. You can start to see the mountains here. That's Mount St. Helens. Caught a glimpse of Rainier and Adams just a minute ago. Coming up to another water crossing. Not too steep, you just have to watch your step. You can see a lot of the trees in here are bare. From what I've heard, there were fires that swept through this area way back in maybe 2011, I believe. And what you see is just what remains from the trees and the area that got burned. All around it you see green, but in this whole area here, you just see dry, dead trees. So we'll work our way through here and up around the next ridge on the way to Elk Cove. So here is a nice viewpoint. You could see Adams in the background, Rainier, and in the distance to the left there is Mount St. Helens. Another water crossing. Got another ridge to climb up before going across and down into Elk Cove. So you can imagine how the ridges are around a mountain. You wind your way down one and back up the other. This water looks a little murky, so I've already collected some water earlier and filtered it into my container. So I try to make sure I have at least 1 to 2 quarts filtered, and depending on the time of the year, you can carry some water with you on top of that, especially in the hot months of the summer. Last night it was just below freezing overnight down by Ramona Falls. It was a really cold night. Time to cross. Here, almost around the north side, you can see a lake there. I believe that's Bull Run, I believe, up near between Lalo Pass and Sentinel Peak. If you follow the Pacific Crest Trail towards the Columbia Gorge, you'll go by that area. I believe that's the water basin for Portland. Once again, you can see Mount St. Helens there. So I'm still working my way around here. Be going up this ridge around the other side, working my way back down to Elk Cove. Still crossing a few ridges. Just came here to a viewpoint. I've still got to make my way across here, work my way back up over that ridge before getting to Elk Cove. But you can see off in the distance here, the Columbia Gorge is just beyond these hills, before those mountains. You can see how in the distance you can see the prairie lands. It's all dry. East of the Cascade Range, or in California we call them the Sierra Nevadas, but the mountain ranges, everything on the east side is all desert, like Death Valley, east of Mount Whitney and Lake Tahoe, all the way up through Oregon into Washington. Everything on the east side is all wheat crops and farmlands. On the Washington side, you have the Yakima Valley and potato farms and Moses Lake, and crossing the northern point of the mountain, and I'm starting the descent down into Elk Cove. It's a pretty good drop in elevation as you drop down to Elk Cove. Elk Cove is a good place to camp for the night. There's several areas with a little water crossing right there. Cloud Cap is, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 miles beyond Elk Cove. So I'm going to try to reach Cloud Cap tonight. It's still early in the day. It's 1:30 p.m. So I'll see how the day goes and try to keep pushing on. Get a really good view of the north side of the mountain coming down the trail here to Elk Cove. And if you do camp out there, that's the view you'll have when you wake up in the morning. As you wind your way down the path along the creek there, before you cross the waterway, you'll see some trees, and it looks a little dense, but there's some clearing in there. If you needed a camp spot, there's a few open areas in there that you can actually set up your tent. It's on the west side of the waterway. You'll see a little turnout right here to cut through. But there's some other areas on the east side of the waterway as well. Just so you know, if you come in and can't find a spot, there's some both on the south side when you cross the water on the south or your right, closer to the mountain. And if you turn on one of the trails that goes left to the north, there's some more camp spots over there. Whenever you see a log or a branch like this. It's just a friendly reminder, that's not the path. Don't turn there. Keep going straight. After some of the water crossings, you'll hit a series of switchbacks to take you back up in elevation. Last water crossing is way down in that canyon. Sometimes you never know which direction you're going to take to get around the ridge. But when you do get up to a point, you usually have a really good view. Another water crossing. Getting closer to Cloud Cap. Every one of these ridges, you kind of cut back closer to the mountain and loop around. But the last one at Elliott Creek, it's a little bit bigger of a creek, and there's an 1,100 foot elevation gain in 1 mile stretch. So at the end of the day, you have that tough climb. Get to Cloud Cap today will be a 16-mile day. So the goal is to at least get there. If I get a little ways beyond that, that'll be even better. You reach the top of a ridge, you look across, and you can see the building at Cloud Cap. But there's still a ways to go. Have to go around a ridge here and then work my way down to the bottom of a ridge to cross Elliott Creek. And then there's some steep switchbacks to get up to Cloud Cap. But I'm close. You can see the dry desert lands in the distance there. This is the point where, you know, Cloud Cap is right there. But there's no wraparound of the ridge here. So to get to Elliott Creek, you have to go all the way down a zigzag to the bottom, and then cross Elliott Creek, and on the hillside right there, there's zigzags that take you all the way up to Cloud Cap at the top. So here we go. Cross the river down there, but it may look like scattered timber on the hillside. You zoom into it, you can see those are switchbacks that go straight up the side of that hill there to Cloud Cap. So when you get to Elliott Creek, you'll see some big rocks to your right, and a lot of people climb down the rocks. But if you come down a ways, you'll see there's a rope, and so it's a lot easier to get down using the rope. So you can walk your way down a ways and then use the rope for the rough stretch right in here down these boulders. But hey, if you're young and adventurous and you want to climb the boulders, you can go right ahead and do that. But the rope is here for a reason. It's a pretty steep descent, and it's definitely worth using the rope. I decided to come down a little ways below here, across here, and then you have to climb up a little bit to pick the trail up, but a little bit easier crossing this than some of those big boulders. Come up across the river, you see little rock formation or cairns guiding you to the beginning of the trail. So this is the beginning of the famous switchbacks leading up to Cloud Cap, capping off the day with the steep climb. These switchbacks are no joke. 1,100 feet elevation climb in 1 mile. I usually take a breather at every second switchback just to catch my breath, but I'm not sure how many switchbacks there are, but I'll find out. I'm at the 9th switchback. I know it still goes further and around to the campground, but the starting point is down at the bottom of the canyon there. Came across from that ridge over on the other side. See the sun's dropping down. It's about 5 p.m. right now. So far I've counted 9 switchbacks. There may be more up ahead. So I made it up the ridge and there were 14 switchbacks. But this is Cloud Cap campground. There's a $20 fee to camp here. There's a few areas just beyond here where you can stop to camp at. You'll see the map here, and we're up here at Cloud Cap. But I may go up just a little ways. There's other campgrounds, like Tilly Jane has a campground, but you got to kind of turn off and go away from the Timberline Trail to go to Tilly Jane campground. So I may just stay on 600 and just find a campsite along the way. And then I'll follow tomorrow, wherever I stop tonight. I'll still a little bit of a climb tonight or today, but tomorrow I'll follow this back down the ridge by Newton Creek and come back around to the lodge. So right now it's about 14 more miles to the lodge. So whatever I do right now before I set up camp will take away from the 14 miles for tomorrow. So when you come up the switchbacks to Cloud Cap campground, you come in right here, and here's the main bulletin here. And if you camp here, just know that when you get up in the morning, you'll want to continue on 600 trail this way. So I'm pushing a little ways past Cloud Cap, and the name can be deceiving. If you think Cloud Cap is the peak of the height of the elevation, it's not. So as soon as you hike out of Cloud Cap, it goes up an incline. So I'm going to try and get over maybe just beyond this ridge before I camp. I'll be closer to the northeast side where I'll be able to see the sunrise early in the morning. Cloud Cap is tucked away down in the trees, bottom of a little bit of the ridge, and you don't really see the sun early in the morning. So try to camp where I'm going to get a good sunrise view in the morning and get a good start. Well, I was able to get in, set up camp for the evening before it got dark, which is a really good thing if you can get set up before it gets dark. Otherwise, you got to start getting headlamps out. But I made a little ways past Cloud Cap. There's kind of like a sandy and rocky area that you have to climb. So I'm not all the way to the peak before you start to drop and descend around the northeast side. Not quite there, maybe halfway up to the peak from Cloud Cap. So you can see I got a tent set up over here, and got my water station set up over here, hanging from the tree, so I can just drop the filter down to my container below. Got my food set up, getting ready to heat some dinner. I've got MREs. Last night I had a freeze-dried meal. You have to boil water. This pack you don't have to boil any water. You just add water to a heat pack, and you put the MRE in there, and it heats up pretty quick. But you gotta keep it away from you. Don't put it in your tent. It smells. But I got my sleeping bag set up with my sleeping pad. I usually just tuck my backpack in over here, throw my coat in the corner so I can kind of use it as a pillow. I actually had my sleeping pad go flat last night, so I'm not sure. I might have to use my coat for a cushion on the ground here, but we'll see. So I'm all set up, getting ready for dinner. See you tomorrow morning.